Ja, här ger vi er all morgon-tv ni behöver. Aftonbladet Morgon finns här fram till klockan 9 varje morgon. Måndag till och med fredag. Och nu blir det ruskigt spännande här.
Verkligen, spiontema.
Ja, det ska handla om Machon. Under 90-talet jobbade hon som underrättelseofficer för den topphemliga underrättelsetjänsten MI5. Hon levde, ska vi säga, i exil under många år efter att ha avslöjat brottslig verksamhet inom MI5. Welcome to Sweden. Welcome to our show, Annie.
Thank you.
And I believe it's the first time in Stockholm for you. So
it is, yes.
What do you think of the capital?
I haven't seen much of it yet. I got here when it was dark last night, so hopefully I'll see
and
a
it's
bit more.
still dark outside.
Yes. So, yeah, it's a bit of a shock.
I just tried to describe to our viewers the case. Can you explain, what did you actually do during the years with MI5?
Yes, I was recruited in 1990 to be part of a new generation of intelligence officer, because up until then, of course, we'd had the Cold War. So they used to focus more on counter-subversion, as they called it, which is looking at political activists, and counter-espionage. But come the 1990s, that was going away, so they took on some new work, which was counter-terrorism. So I was recruited to be a counter-terrorism officer. And that means that you are given targets to investigate. Then you have a whole range of different resources with which to investigate your targets, including interception of communications and bugging people's homes and human agents and physical surveillance and everything.
But was this a dream for you to be an agent for MI5? Why did you become an agent in the first place?
I sort of fell into it by accident, as many people did in those days. In fact, I was quite horrified when I was first approached by them, because they had a really bad reputation after the 1980s with a whole series of whistleblowing scandals. So I wasn't terribly keen to try and see how far I could get. Unfortunately, when I opened the letter from them, my father was with me in the room, and he was a journalist and also a spy aficionado. So he just said, please find out if it is MI5, see what it is. So ever afterwards, I could blame my parents.
And you worked there, Isabel, for 6 years.
Yes.
What can you say about those years? Did you enjoy the job? Or?
Potentially, it's a very good job. You know, it's something that can potentially make a difference and even save lives. I'm not being melodramatic saying that. However, the organisation that I joined, I found, was caught in the past. There was bad management practice, and a whole range of things went wrong during my time there. I also met a man who became my partner as well as colleague for a number of years, called David Shaler. And we decided after 5-6 years that we had to do something about it. We'd raised all our concerns internally, and we were always just told to shut up and just follow orders, just don't rock the boat. So we decided to resign and go public about our concerns, hoping that by doing so there would be a scandal, and that scandal would result in an inquiry, and that would result in reform of the services so that they would start to obey the law.
Was this a difficult step for you to take? I mean, did you hesitate to do what you actually did?
It was, yes. It was very frightening, because in the UK, under the Official Secrets Act, there is a law from 1989 that makes you automatically a criminal if you go public about your work in MI5, and you face at least 2 years in prison. So even though we knew we had to do something, we felt compelled to try and do something, it was still a very difficult decision. I mean, any whistleblower from any sector will turn their lives inside out and probably lose their job.
What made you take this step?
Well, there was a whole range of things we saw going wrong, starting with files on government ministers, bombs that could and should have been prevented, innocent people.
Bombs that couldn't be prevented? Yeah. That sounds quite serious.
It was bad. I mean, this was the height of the provisional IRA bombing campaign in London in the 1990s, and they were making mistake after mistake, and these bombs exploded, people died, and then they lied to government about it. They covered up their mistakes and didn't learn from them. So there was that. There was innocent people in prison, illegal telephone taps, no change there. And it culminated with MI6 funding Al-Qaeda in Libya to try and assassinate Colonel Gaddafi.
Right.
And that's the point where we thought, we have to go, we have to do something.
And when you went public with this, how did MI5 react? What was their reaction?
Incandescently angry, I think. I mean, they have had other whistleblowers come out before, but their approach is always to attack the whistleblower personally, not address the issues, and crush the whistleblowers as well, put them in prison, ruin their reputation, to deter future whistleblowers. Now, it never works. People keep coming out. But it was very, very frightening to do, and we ended up having to go literally on the run around Europe.
You had to leave the job, of course. Could you describe the days, the years on the run?
Well, the first month was literally on the run. So this is where we were sort of backpacking around Europe in some sort of surreal student
Where
holiday.
did you stay? Like at hotels or?
Yeah. We actually fled to the Netherlands to begin with and then went all the way across France and we did Spain. And we were moving from hotel to hotel every night, paying cash, changing our appearance.
It's like a Born Identity movie or something, yeah?
It was much more spy-like being on the run than it was when we were actually working for the agency. So it's very strange. Then we had another 10 months hiding in a French farmhouse and then 2 years in Paris, living in exile. And my partner, David, went to prison twice for blowing the whistle on the crimes of the spies. And I was arrested, and friends and family were arrested, and journalists were arrested, and activist students were arrested. So it was a very big case, a long time ago, but it caused a huge scandal.
But your whistleblowing, was it you contacted a journalist in a newspaper, or how did you do it, the actual scandal thing?
David contacted someone on the Mail on Sunday in the UK through an intermediary, and then took about 10 months, I think it was, for them to begin to trust each other. Because, of course, the journalist thought it might be a planted story from MI5, and, of course, he was worried that he would be shocked by the journalist. So it was a very slow courtship. And all during this time, we were worried MI5 was going to, catch on and start investigating us. So it was really, really stressful just waiting for that phone call from the newspaper saying we're going to go with it.
How common would you say that we have illegal activities in organizations like MI5?
I think, unfortunately, increasingly common. Now, I worked in the 1990s, which is the only decade when they were sort of trying to obey the law, because up until 89 they hadn't officially existed, they could do what they wanted, and then they were put on a legal footing. And then since 9/11 with the war on terror, they have become worse again. So despite that, we still saw so many things going wrong in the 1990s that we felt compelled to do something. Now we're seeing that MI5 is being involved in torture cases, extraordinary rendition, kidnapping cases, and they are certainly... The British spy agencies are certainly bending the law more when it comes to intercepting all our communications.
Yeah.
Our listening post is just running amok. GCHQ is, listening to all European communications.
Nowadays, you work to protect whistleblowers. In what way and why is that important?
Well, there are many of us out there. You'd be surprised, particularly in America. So I'm proud to belong to an association called the Sam Adams Associates for Integrity in Intelligence. This was set up just over a decade ago by a former CIA top officer called Ray McGovern in honour of a friend of his called Sam Adams. He was a colleague who wished he had blown the whistle on the Vietnam War and regretted it to his dying day because he could have saved lives. So Ray set up this award, this group, in order to give an award to someone displaying integrity and intelligence every year. So this year it was Chelsea Manning, last year it was Edward Snowden, and next year it will be the original NSA whistleblower, William Binney, and we're holding the award ceremony in Berlin in January, so that should be quite a big one.
You're here in Stockholm right now to speak about the Internet days. What would you say is the biggest threats to our integrity and to the digital future?
I think the biggest threats, I think there are two, and they sort of overlap increasingly. First of all, our spy agencies running out of control and just hoovering up all our information. And we've only seen the tip of the iceberg from the Snowden disclosures, so God knows what else is out there. So I think that is a threat. But I think that they're increasing overlap and dependency on big corporations as well, who do also want to snoop on our communications to stop piracy or whatever they want to say. So it's this sort of gradual corporatization, the merger of the corporate and the state, which, of course, Benito Mussolini, the Italian dictator, said was the classic definition of fascism. That's what I see as a major threat to our privacy. And I would suggest that we need to take our privacy very seriously, because if we don't have it, we begin to self-censor in our communications.
Where do you place Sweden on this map?
It was very good. I think it's less good now, should we say. There seem to be increasingly close ties between the Swedish intelligence agencies and the US intelligence agencies. And also Denmark and the Netherlands and, of course, the UK.
Yeah.
And just this week it came out that Germany has been really complicit as well with what the NSA wants. So a lot of our countries are going down a very slippery moral slope.
Do you think we will see more whistleblowers in the future or less?
I think we will see more, because look what happened only last year when Edward Snowden came out. Yeah. And this was it just as the trial of Chelsea Manning was beginning. This was a young army private facing 35 years in prison, and yet another whistleblower came out knowing he was running the same risk.
Yeah.
So I think the worse the spies get, the more out of control and totalitarian they get, the more people will be willing to take that risk. And that's what we in Sam Adams want to help them and protect them.
Yeah, let's hope
we'll see what happens. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
Our show.
Thank you.
Good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Snart så snackar vi vidare här i studion om Augustpriset som delas ut ikväll. Men allra först naturligtvis nyheter.